we're going to work on something called stretch out the good part. And this is a writing technique. We've been learning a lot of different writing techniques. And this is a writing technique that will help you when you're writing your stories. So let's see. To begin to illustrate this, let me get a couple of people up here. Christina and Ariel are astronauts. You might not have known that. And then, let's see. Alessandro and Nayan, they are aliens. All right, come up here, Nayan. All right. So, here's the scene in my story. So I'm writing my story, and these guys are going to kind of act this out, and we're going to show one part now, and then we're going to show another part later. So, okay, so it's a story. It's my story, and this story is called A Visit to Pluto. It's a very exciting story. And Christina the astronaut and Ariel the astronaut just arrived on Pluto. And oh my gosh, Nayan the alien and Alessandra the alien come out. And wait a minute, I'm going to describe my scene. Christina and Ariel wave to the aliens, say hi. Hi. And the aliens wave back. And so then in the next part of the story, the astronauts go off and explore some craters. Okay, stop. All right, good, stop. Everybody stop for a second. All right, so I want you to think about something was kind of missing from that really important... Parson? Something was missing from that really important part of my story. I want you to turn and talk with a partner. What was missing from that important part of my story? Turn and talk. Angela, do you have a partner? All right, coming back in 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Anyone want to tell me, like, what was missing from that really important part of my story? Tyler.
Detail and description.
Detail and description. Well said. Anyone want to add on to that? Ariel?
You actually meet an alien on Pluto. You're just going to say hi and wave to them and then go off. You actually see an alien, you're probably going to be like, what the heck is that? Because you've never seen an alien before.
Good. Nayan?
So that's what that PowerPoint says.
Oh, you've anticipated what I'm going to talk about. Yeah, it was like, first of all, it was super short. Like Ariel said, they just said hi and moved on. And like Tyler said, there was no like detail or description. That's a really important part of my story. That's a good part. Okay? Because that's the big scene of my story where the aliens meet the astronauts. So I don't want to just write like 2 lines about it and move on to the next part where they go explore the craters. I want to, what they call, stretch it out. I want to stretch it out using details and dialogue. Well, let's talk about that a little bit. So stretching out the good part. So today we're going to use a special technique to improve our stories. It's called stretching out the good part. How does it work? Let's take a look at an example, and then we'll go back to our space example in a second. We'll get our actors back on. So, here's an important scene from a story about a dog who becomes a high school quarterback. A little story I wrote. So in this scene of my story, the dog, whose name is Rover, throws an important touchdown, and here's the scene. So, Rover dropped back to pass. He threw a long pass to his wide receiver, and it was caught in the end zone for the winning touchdown. Oh, I see a thumbs down. All right. So it tells what happened, but it's not very well stretched. That's to say, it's very short. It doesn't tell much about what happened. After all, this is a crucial scene. It's one of the most important in the entire story. Just like when you're writing your story today, you're going to come upon some like really important scenes, some really good parts. It should have lots of exciting detail about what happened. So here's the same scene. I tried it again. Okay, this time it's a little better stretched out, I think. So Rover dropped back to pass. The Ravens blitzed all their best pass rushers. But Rover rolled to his left and found a clear passing lane down the field. He cocked his arm and threw a long, high spiral hurtling towards Jerry Rice, who was sprinting headlong towards the Ravens' end zone. Just as Rice broke away from his defender, the ball arrived, hitting his outstretched fingers. As the clock struck 0, Rice hauled in the ball and tucked it under his left arm and ran to the goal line. The Ravens defender dived for his ankle, and Rice fell forward, stretching over the line for a touchdown. The Niners fans went berserk. The players lifted Rover to their shoulders. A small farm dog had become the hero of the Super Bowl. So turn and talk. What did you think was better about that second scene?
More
All right, Jason is dying to tell us. Everybody back, please. All right, but can you answer my question first? So, what did you think was better about the second scene?
more detail
Mhm.
and like
More detail.
you stretched it out more by making it way longer.
It's longer, it has more detail, more adjectives, more description, it's better stretched out. I actually forgot dialogue. Maybe when Jerry Rice caught the ball, he could have been like, great throw, Rover, or something like that. What was your comment?
The story's a little weird
It is a little bit.
because the dog should be Joe Montana instead of Rover.
Oh, you know your Niners history, yeah. So the second scene was a little longer and a little better. No, the scene is really well stressed. We feel like we're there in the game, too. As it turns out, you can write 2 sentences about Rover's touchdown throw, or you could write 8 or 10 or even more, maybe. But how do you stretch? That's what we're going to talk about next. How do you stretch a scene? Because it's one thing to say, yeah, I'm going to stretch a scene, but it's another to know how to do it. So, one good way is to ask questions about a scene. So let's go back to that first try. So here are some questions like, Rover dropped back to pass. Well, did he get away from the pass rush, the defenders who were coming after him? He threw a long pass to his wide receiver. But what was the pass like? Who was his receiver? The first time I didn't even say who it was. It was caught in the end zone for the winning touchdown. Who was defending? What's the name of Rover's team? I didn't say that the first time. How did the fans react? I didn't say that either. If you're trying to stretch a scene, oh, it's really important. Anushka, you with me? If you're trying to stretch a scene, ask questions. Try to see what else could be described in the scene. If we answered all those questions, we could probably write 2 pages just on this one scene. So today we're going to practice stretching out a scene. Oh, we're going to practice that alien scene, actually. Oh, and also don't forget our earlier part about dialogue. Having the characters speak can also help stretch out a scene. All right, so let's do some stretching. So, aliens back up there, and astronauts back up here. Okay. All right, now, audience, you can be helpful here. What questions, one of our aliens is tying his shoe. Right. So, what questions, as a reader, pretend you're reading my story now, what questions would you want to know, Marcy, about the astronauts? What things would you want to know about the aliens? What questions do you have about this scene that could be answered? Just one hand? Really? You're not a very inquisitive audience. 2 hands, that's a little better. What do we want to know about this scene? Oh, good, an alien has an idea. An astronaut. Yeah, Matea. Yeah, what do they look like? We want to describe our astronaut wearing a pink shirt and red pants, and our astronaut wearing a squad goals t-shirt, or however we want to describe them. Good. Anything else we want to know? Evelyn. Say again? Yeah, how did the aliens look? Good. What else? Gary?
What astronauts felt like supposed to be on Pluto?
Yeah, what did it feel like to land on Pluto? That would be really interesting to know. No astronauts actually ever landed there in real life, so we'd want to know that. Marcy?
Maybe like a little bit more of what the aliens did. Like instead of just telling them that the aliens said hi, they'd be like, they stared at us for a little while and then they turned away and walked.
Yeah, like what happened next? Like instead of just having them go off to the next scene, we want to stay on. Oh, this is really important. Instead of just moving along to the next scene, we want to stay on this scene for a little while and just describe this one scene like Marcy's saying before we go off and talk about the next thing. Okay?
Like where in Pluto, because they might be really far away from their spacecraft.
Yeah, like where in Pluto did they land? And actually you just mentioned another thing. What about their spaceship? I didn't describe that at all. Alien?
Did the spaceship crash?
Did the spaceship crash or did they land nicely?
Like who are the aliens?
Who are the aliens? Do they have names or like what do they do? Like how do they act? Mm-hmm. We have a lot of good questions now. Andrew.
Did the astronauts do something about seeing them?
Mm-hmm. What did they do? Like what did they do next? There's one more thing I was thinking of that I haven't heard mentioned, and it actually has to do with a lesson that we had last week.
Oh.
Something we learned about. Nyan.
Dialogue.
Dialogue. Perfect, Nyan. Like what did they say to each other when they met? Well, maybe they couldn't speak to each other because they might speak different languages. But yeah, maybe something. Good. Thank you so much, volunteers. I know you didn't really get to act that much, but that was important to see you up here. So, let me show you a few questions I had, and let's see if any of these match the questions you have. So, I had, oh, everybody looking up here? Seeing crisscross speeds? Thank you, sir. Red Sox fan? Alright, so what did aliens look like? We said that one. How did the aliens sound? I think someone said, I think Andrew might have mentioned that. How did the astronauts react to the aliens? That was mentioned. What was the alien spaceship like? That was, Jason mentioned that. Were the aliens friendly or mean? I don't think we said that one. The names of the astronauts. Did the aliens have names? What planet were they on? I kind of told you that one. So, a lot of interesting questions to answer. So, here's what, oh, and also this, right here.
Are you going to read it?
Don't forget dialogue. So, now I have a challenge for you in your writing journal. I'm going to ask you to write this scene and stretch it really well. In fact, I want to see you stretch it so well that you write maybe a quarter of a, maybe even half a page, just on this one scene before you move on to any other scenes. We want to stick with this one scene and stretch it out using dialogue, using descriptions, answering some of these important questions that we had. Yes, sir. Computer?
Like right after we finish it, can we go back to the story? Because like, if you want to
You're worried about time.
need all the time.
I hear what you're saying. We will do that. Gary?
Will we do the same scene to this as the castle? Are we gonna like,
It's a little bit like that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
can you put that on the board? Like, can you like leave it
Can I leave
there?
this up there?
Yeah.
Because you want to see those questions? Good idea. I'll do that. Mm-hmm.
Wait, do we write like
You write this one scene that we were about to act out where the aliens meet the astronauts.
yeah, so you write aliens, like the astronauts.
Yep, you're going to pick it up right there. Exactly. All right. If you would find your writing journal and get to work.
Can you do it with the partner?
This is an individual activity.
I'm gonna make this guys They're not really talking.
All right, let's use off to a good start.
What should we name it? You're not talking. Let's name it alien people are not talking. It's like,
There's one without a name. Tyler got right to work. Nice job, Tyler. Beautiful.
I need another pencil.
Diane got right to work. Good job, Angela. Andrew looks like he didn't get enough sleep last night. Good job, Marcy. We're attacking that paper. Good work, everybody. Don't forget dialogue. Oh, Nyan's got some dialogue already. Now, it shouldn't be all dialogue. You want to describe too. You want a mix of descriptions and dialogue.
What's the astronaut?
Mm-hmm.
What's the astronaut?
Oh, I spell it? We're not so focused on spelling right now. We're focused on really stretching out the scene. The old blue rocket landed as dust flew everywhere. Good start, Carrie. Good start, Marcy. Say like 10 more minutes. Does that work for you?
I didn't.
Wow, look how much people wrote. Beautiful. Good stretching. Let me see. Wow. Stretch that whole scene. Good job, Gary. Good dialogue.
Oh, I remember that.
You back to your story? Oh, where's your stretch part? Is this it here? Nice job. Is this the stretch part here? Very nice. Nice work, Christina.
It says going to our parents.